Clearly, they were expected to make a choice. Either Baldoni or Ryan and Blake, and William Morris dropped Baldoni like a hot rock.
I loved seeing Colin Jost come back to Saturday Night Live last night with a joke at his wife, Blake Lively's expense.
Made it seem like a moral act of loyalty.
It was Night Live just added even more heat to the already intense legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldwin. This time, the jab came straight from Colin Jost. Last night on SNL,
Saturday Night Live, Colin Jost came back live and clearly made a joke at Blake Lively.
Now, if you think that's just a coincidence, let's add another layer to this Hollywood mess. Jost is married to Scarlett Johansson, who just so happens to be Ryan Reynolds' ex-wife. And if the rumors are true, their marriage didn't just fizzle out, it crashed and burned after Reynolds allegedly had an affair with none other than Blake Lively.
Decided to leave his A-list wife for one of the most despised actresses in Hollywood. It was back in 2010 when he was married to Scarlett Johansson. Then he allegedly cheated on her with actress Blake Lively.
Now, if you think that's random, let's add another layer of Hollywood drama. Jost is married to Scarlett Johansson, who happens to be Ryan Reynolds' ex-wife. And if the rumors are true, their marriage fell apart after Reynolds allegedly had an affair with none other than Blake Lively.
I have a question.
Oh, hey, Ryan Reynolds.
Hi.
Hey. Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
They made it seem like everyone loved the joke, but trust me, the comment sections of every media outlet that posted the clip were in complete chaos. Reynolds has probably never faced this level of public dragging in his life. In an attempt to save face, he only made things worse. And just when it couldn't get any messier, Colin Jost, the husband of his famous ex, stepped in and added even more spice to the drama. The wildest part? This SNL episode was heavily focused on politics, especially the whole fiasco between Trump and Zelensky, yet somehow Blake Lively still ended up catching some serious strays.
Asking to borrow missiles so they can take the party to the next level. Zelensky was asked to leave the White House. Then he appeared on Fox News and said he thinks he can still salvage his relationship with President Trump, which is like Justin Baldoni saying, "I'd love to work with Blake again."
There's shade, and then there's shade. And this right here is the mother of all shades. Now, it all makes sense. SNL wasn't being oblivious when they let Ryan Reynolds take a shot at his wife's lawsuit. They knew that by allowing it, he had just given them the perfect excuse to turn the case into a recurring topic in their skits. After all, if the husband himself could joke about his wife's lawsuit, why couldn't they? And the fact that it was Colin Jost, of all people, who threw that shade? Let's be real. This wasn't just a joke. It was a precision strike.
Have your ex-wife's husband crack this joke. The same ex-wife's husband whose show you decided to go make your first appearance on, let him write a joke for you that bombs. I mean, the whole thing is all next level.
Gotta hand it to SNL. They're absolutely savage with their moves. They knew from the start that fans wouldn't be happy about them letting Ryan have his moment at their event, but they took the backlash in stride because they had the bigger picture in mind, and now they're going all in. Don't be shocked if a Blake Lively joke sneaks into every other episode from here on out. Even Colin couldn't hold back his laughter before dropping the punchline, which is
like Justin Baldoni saying, "I'd love to work with Blake again."
Ooh, and even the audience is like laughing, but like...
These guys are straight up geniuses. For a moment, you might think they're actually backing Blake. But let's be real, they couldn't care less about her so-called victim sob story. It's obvious they don't buy a word of what she's claimed in her lawsuit. What they did need was a way in, and Ryan Reynolds handed it to them on a silver platter. Now, they're ready to feast to their heart's content. The golden couple better brace themselves, because things are about to get wild.
Shows SNL playing its cards of, yeah, they're clearly, they know Blake Lively is crazy. And given the appearance, she's gonna have this same reaction of, wait a second, why are you making fun of me? I thought you had our back, Saturday Night Live. What's going on?
This is all the proof you need to see what Hollywood really thinks about this drama. At first, they were swayed by Blake's story and stood firmly in her corner. But after everything that's come to light in recent weeks, the cracks in her claims are impossible to ignore. Now everyone sees her for who she really is. It looks like the Queen Mother has lost her crown, and this time, her dragons can't come to the rescue. SNL made it crystal clear. It wasn't Lively who had a rough time on set. It was poor Baldoni who was getting tossed around.
Yeah, no, Justin Baldoni's never working with Blake Lively again. And notice, this joke could have been the other way around. That's like Blake Lively saying, yeah, I want to work with Justin again. They chose to make the butt of the joke on her, not on him. Incredibly telling.
When you're up against someone who has the likes of Taylor Swift in their corner, you have to play it smart. The Swifties can take down even the biggest celebrities if their fave so much as hints at it, let alone a relatively unknown actor. While it's unclear just how deep Taylor's involvement in this drama goes, one thing is certain. Her fans will stand by whoever she backs. If she really were a dragon, like Blake once described, then her fire would be more than powerful enough to burn through her enemies. Just think back to how they handled CJ.
That to me is showing where Hollywood and all these people align. And this one was just far more interesting to talk about because given this whole appearance, which even Kevin Costner was like, what the hell are you doing, Ryan?
Brian Fredman, Baldoni's lawyer, fired back at Ryan's weird joke about the lawsuit at SNL 50 during his appearance on Billy Bush's podcast. By now, you should know he's not one to hold back. And this time was no different. He had some pretty explosive things to say.
Blake leverages her friendship with Taylor Swift against Baldoni. She says, I'm like Khaleesi from Game of Thrones, and my husband Ryan and my best friend Taylor are my dragons. They inspire me, they support me.
Remember when Lively's lawsuit dropped like a bomb? Back then, most of the It Ends With Us cast, from Liz Plank to Colleen Hoover, quickly unfollowed him on social media. Some even went as far as releasing statements in support of Lively. But now that her claims have been exposed as baseless, most of them have either deleted their posts or vanished from social media altogether. Which really makes you wonder, why did they blindly support Blake in the first place?
Fan base. The Swifties just bombarded a restaurant owned by the mother of a Philadelphia Eagles player, CJ Gardner-Johnson, with terrible Yelp reviews, calling the place horrible, inedible, all that stuff. Because CJ trolled Taylor.
The fact that Liz Plank and Colleen Hoover were among those who turned their backs on Baldoni shocked a lot of people. The sudden switch-up was wild, almost unbelievable. But you know what's even more interesting about this drama right now? The alleged HR complaint document that's been making rounds on social media in recent days. No one seems to know how it leaked, but let's be real. You can probably guess who might have done it. The craziest part? The document was so heavily redacted that it makes you wonder, what was even the point of leaking it? Even the dates were blacked out.
I think anybody who's been accused of heinous, arguably what are crimes, is on vacation. I think that he is trying to gather with his family and get some semblance of peace.
Why leak a document if there's no way for people to verify whether it's real or not? The whole purpose of exposing the HR complaint was to back up Lively's claims that two of her co-stars were harassed. But when key details like names and dates are completely redacted, it defeats the entire purpose, doesn't it? How is anyone supposed to make sense of it? Especially without the dates?
They premiered the movie. Ryan Reynolds had unfollowed him on Insta. So had Blake. So had the rest of the cast. Now you tell me, if you're an unknown actor in this film and you know that Blake and Ryan have turned on the no-name Justin Baldoni, who are you going to follow? These are weak, feckless people out in Hollywood. They have no spine. So, of course, they all unfollowed him and chose Team Blake.
Remember, Lively allegedly pressured Sony into giving her full control over the final cut of the movie. Not only that, but she also threatened to stage a walkout that could tank the film's sales if Baldoni was allowed to attend the New Yorker premiere. She got everything she wanted, and then some. But here's the shocking part. Despite what she claimed in her amended lawsuit, Sony has firmly denied that any HR complaint was ever submitted to them.
Ask you, what are the dates of these HR complaints? Do you know the dates?
There's no dates. The dates are redacted. The names of the complainants are redacted, except for on one of them, there's an M.
Remember, Lively allegedly pressured Sony into giving her full control over the final cut of the movie. Not only that, but she also threatened to stage a walkout that could tank the film's sales if Baldoni was allowed to attend the New Yorker premiere. She got everything she wanted, and then some. But here's the shocking part. Despite what she claimed in her amended lawsuit, Sony has firmly denied that any HR complaint was ever submitted to them.
I'm not really sure why the dates are redacted. That's interesting. I understand why people could be redacted. I believe in certain privacy rights, certainly. But I'm not really clear on why dates would be redacted.
As far as Sony is concerned, there's already a Variety article out there confirming that the company never received any complaints. Sony has made it clear. They have no record of any HR complaints related to this situation. And with that denial, you really have to wonder if the HR document that's been floating around is even real. How exactly is Blake going to prove that her co-stars filed complaints about being harassed if there's no official record? You'd think that if these women truly went through what Blake claims, they would have spoken out by now. After all, they were directly named in her amended lawsuit. But instead, there's been complete silence. No statements, no interviews, nothing. If the so-called victims themselves aren't even stepping forward to back up her claims, what does that say about the integrity of this entire lawsuit? To make things even more questionable, Wayfarer Studios also denied ever receiving any complaints from any cast members. So if both Sony and Wayfarer never got an HR complaint, does that mean the document circulating online was completely fabricated? That would certainly explain why the dates and every other critical detail were conveniently redacted. It almost feels like someone was trying to create a scandal out of thin air, but failed to cover their tracks properly. And speaking of failure...
Right, I'm unaware of any other, frankly, HR complaints that have been filed. And I think if you look through the website and you look through the documents, you can see clearly from certain documents that there were no HR complaints filed.
Brian Fredman had quite a bit to say about Ryan's bizarre joke at SNL 50. When asked about it, he called it just one of many missteps that Lively and her husband keep making in this ongoing battle. To him, it was another desperate attempt to shift the narrative back in their favor. And just like every other move they've made in recent weeks, it completely backfired. Honestly, think about it. Who in their right mind would joke about their wife allegedly being sexually harassed? That's exactly why people were left dumbfounded by Ryan's decision to make such an inappropriate comment on national television. It wasn't just tone deaf. It was outright reckless. Comments at SNL aside, this is a serious case we're dealing with. A massive lawsuit where Blake Lively has claimed she was harassed in the most obscene way imaginable. So why on earth would Ryan think it was a good idea to turn that into a joke in front of her industry peers? Did he really expect them to laugh along and see it as just another viral meme moment? Honestly, with that reckless move, Ryan didn't just hurt his own reputation, he dragged Blake's down with him. Now, instead of sympathy, they're both facing backlash from every corner of the internet. And let's be real, it's well-deserved. It's hard to think of anyone who has ever handled a situation like this so poorly. And Blake? Oh, she knows she's in full-blown crisis mode, but instead of hiring just any PR guru, she's bringing in the big guns. And by that, we mean an actual former CIA agent. Yes, you heard that right. The same woman who built her entire brand playing effortlessly chic Upper East Siders is now seeking legal advice from someone trained in counterterrorism. You literally couldn't make this up if you tried. Meet Nick Shapiro, the man now tasked with salvaging Blake's crumbling public image. His resume, straight out of a Jason Bourne movie. Before stepping into the world of high-stakes celebrity damage control, Shapiro was the CIA's deputy chief of staff and even served as a national security spokesperson for the Obama administration. This is a guy who's dealt with counterterrorism, threats, major cyber attacks, and literal global disasters. And now he's managing the fallout from Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, because apparently in Hollywood, a PR crisis is just as urgent as a national security breach. I mean, how bad does it have to be for someone to call in a former CIA official? That alone screams desperation. And let's not forget, Blake's legal team has already confirmed that Shapiro was brought in specifically to handle her legal communication strategy. Which, let's be honest, is just a fancy way of saying we need someone who can clean up this disaster before it gets even worse. And here's the real irony. Blake's team is now out there trying to spin media coverage in her favor. But wait, isn't that exactly what she accused Justin of doing? She spent weeks leaking stories about him to control the narrative, but now that things aren't going her way, she's doing the exact same thing. The real question is, what's Blake's next move? Because at this point, it's looking more and more like a losing battle. Is Blake Lively gearing up for an all-out legal showdown? Is she planning to go nuclear in the press? Or is this just an over-the-top attempt to pressure Baldoni into backing down? Whatever her game plan is, one thing is certain. She's not playing nice. She wants the world to see that she means business. But you know what's truly wild? The guy she just hired, Nick Shapiro, was allegedly involved in one of the most controversial political scandals in recent years, the Hunter Biden laptop fiasco. Yeah, you heard that right. Blake Lively has enlisted the same man who was reportedly at the center of efforts to bury the story that could have landed Hunter Biden in deep trouble. Now, just take a second to think about that. Before Shapiro started working damage control for Hollywood elites, he was operating on an entirely different playing field. We're talking about a guy with deep government connections, someone who was dealing with counterterrorism and national security at the highest level. And now, he's handling a celebrity lawsuit. You have to wonder, why does Blake feel like she needs someone that powerful? What is she so desperate to keep from falling apart? But here's where it gets interesting. Baldoni isn't exactly defenseless when it comes to PR strategy. While Blake is stacking her team with ex-intelligence, officials, Baldoni has been playing the long game, making moves behind the scenes that are now proving to be a game changer. And unlike Blake, he's not scrambling to regain control, because so far, he's actually winning in court. And let's not forget, the liberals love to say they play fair, but come on, we've seen time and time again that's not exactly true. Just like Lively is doing right now, they'll go to extreme lengths to control the narrative. And Shapiro, he was part of a group of 51 senior intelligence officers who signed a widely criticized letter in 2020 claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop story had all the classic signs of Russian disinformation. Now, fast forward to today, and he's deep in the trenches of Lively's PR war. So what does Blake know that the rest of us don't? If she's bringing in someone with CIA-level crisis management expertise, this lawsuit might be a way bigger deal than anyone initially thought. What exactly is she so afraid of? Meanwhile, Baldoni didn't just stumble into this legal war, he saw it coming. Months before Blake even filed her lawsuit, he made a calculated move that's now proving to be a major advantage. Back in August, Baldoni hired Melissa Nathan, a high-powered crisis manager best known for handling Johnny Depp's explosive case against Amber Heard. That's right, Baldoni brought in the same PR mastermind who helped turn Depp's public image around during one of the most talked-about celebrity trials in history. If Blake thought she was the only one with a powerhouse team, she might be in for a rude awakening. Because with Nathan in his corner, Baldoni isn't just playing defense. He's preparing for the ultimate comeback. Hiring a crisis PR team isn't something you just do on a whim. It's a strategic move, one that's only made when you know trouble is brewing. And that's exactly what happened here. Back in August, before any lawsuits or public allegations had been made, news suddenly broke that Justin Baldoni had brought on Melissa Nathan, the same PR expert who handled Johnny Depp's legal battle against Amber Heard. It came out of nowhere, and it quickly became public knowledge. Now, why is that so interesting? Because this leak didn't just happen. It was allegedly orchestrated by Blake's team before things really took off. The moment she realized Baldoni wasn't walking into this blind, that he was preparing for every possibility, she knew she had to act. And what better way to preemptively discredit him than by making sure everyone knew he had hired a crisis PR firm? The message was clear. Oh, look, Justin is already trying to control the narrative. But here's what people didn't realize at the time. The real game had already been in motion for months. The timing of the leak was very telling. It was almost as if Blake's team wanted to make Baldoni look guilty before any accusations had even been made. They wanted the headlines, to paint him as someone who needed crisis management, as if that alone meant he had something to hide. But let's be real. Anyone in Hollywood who sees a legal storm coming would do the same thing. If you know a scandal is about to hit, you prepare. And Baldoni did exactly that. But here's where it gets really interesting. While Blake was trying to turn Baldoni's PR strategy against him, she was secretly stacking her own team with even bigger players. Because let's not forget, she didn't just hire a regular crisis manager, she brought in an ex-CIA officer. That alone says a lot about how serious this has become for her. And let's talk about Melissa Nathan for a second. She's no rookie in the world of high-stakes PR. Her firm, The Agency Group, is elite. She's worked with top-tier celebrities like Drake, Logan Paul, and the Chainsmokers. These are huge names, people who care about their reputations and trust her to protect them. So, of course, when Blake realized Nathan had joined Baldoni's team, she panicked. She knew what Nathan was capable of, and she didn't want her to get the upper hand. That's probably why Blake went straight to the New York Times to push that now infamous article about Baldoni. She wasn't just playing defense, she was trying to hit first and hit hard. She wanted to control the public perception before Nathan even had a chance to counter it. And what's even crazier, it kind of worked, at least at first. People immediately started questioning why Baldoni needed a crisis PR team, instead of asking why Blake was so desperate to expose it. But now, with everything unfolding the way it has, it's becoming clearer than ever. This entire thing has been a calculated, strategic battle from both sides. And it's far from over. This story runs so deep that it makes you wonder, what else haven't we been told? What other secrets are still buried? For Baldoni to bring in one of the top damage control experts in the industry, it's clear he's seen firsthand just how far Blake Lively is willing to go to silence him. And if he wins this legal battle, it won't just clear his name. It could completely shift the way media outlets like the New York Times cover celebrity scandals. If the case exposes how the press was manipulated, they might even have to retract their reports entirely. Given Melissa Nathan's undefeated track record, it's obvious that Baldoni isn't just hoping for a quiet settlement. He's playing the long game, and if his strategy works, he won't just walk away vindicated, he'll walk away more powerful than ever. But here's where it gets even more interesting. While Baldoni has been carefully executing his moves, Lively's team has been scrambling to keep up. The headlines are being spun to make it seem like she's already winning, but let's be real. Look at who is pushing that narrative. Deadline PR? A crisis PR firm hired by Lively? That alone tells you everything you need to know. They're trying to reframe the entire situation to make it look like a victory. But in reality, it's clear they're desperately trying to control the damage. Meanwhile, Baldoni has positioned himself as the wronged party, a man fighting back against Hollywood politics and biased media narratives. And now, his opponent isn't just Lively, it's her ex-CIA crisis manager, Nick Shapiro. This is no longer just a lawsuit, it's a full-blown PR war. And in this war, every headline, every leaked story, every legal ruling is a battlefield. And speaking of major setbacks for Lively, her latest legal maneuver just backfired in a big way. If you've been following this drama closely, you'd know that Lively just suffered a major roadblock in her fight against Baldoni, and this one hurts. She tried to get her hands on 2 full years of Baldoni's phone records, call logs, text messages, even location data, digging into every conversation and movement since 2022. But a federal judge just told her, absolutely not. Judge Lewis. Lyman didn't just deny her request, he slammed it, calling it an invasion of privacy. He ruled that Lively's demands were excessive and completely disproportionate. And here's the kicker. Her claims against Baldoni only date back to early 2024. So why was she trying to unearth messages from 2 years ago? That's not just reaching, it's grasping at straws. It's no surprise that each side wants as much information as possible to build their case. But this ruling was a devastating blow to Lively's strategy. It signals that the court isn't going to let this case spiral into a fishing expedition. And more importantly, it shows that Baldoni isn't backing down. Let's be real. Lively's entire strategy was clear from the start. She wasn't just looking for justice, she was looking for anything that could make Baldoni look bad. And now, after the judge's ruling, it's obvious she was throwing out a massive fishing net, hoping to drag in something, anything, to use against him. But here's the thing. Just because you want damaging evidence to exist doesn't mean it does. Baldoni's legal team treated this whole situation like a championship fight, and they came prepared. They called out Lively's demands for what they really were, a desperate hunt for evidence that simply isn't there. And the judge agreed. 2 years of innocuous text messages weren't going to back up her claims. But don't be fooled. Blake Lively's PR machine never stopped spinning. The moment she lost that subpoena battle, headlines magically started popping up, twisting the narrative to make it seem like she wasn't taking a massive L. Suddenly, articles were downplaying the fact that she got shut down and making it sound like this was somehow a win. But let's call it what it really is, damage control at its finest. Now, to be fair, the judge didn't give Baldoni a complete free pass. Some third-party subpoenas were still allowed to move forward, meaning Lively might still get access to some communications, but nowhere near what she was originally demanding. It's a tiny win buried under a mountain of huge losses, and yet her team is already trying to spin it as some kind of victory. But here's where it gets even more suspicious. If Lively really thought she won, why did she immediately announce that she was bringing in an ex-CIA agent to her team? Think about it. If her world-class PR and legal team were handling everything perfectly, why suddenly call in reinforcements? That move alone speaks volumes. It proves that this loss shook her more than she's willing to admit. She doesn't want to look weak, but the fact that she's pulling out every possible resource, even from intelligence agencies, shows she's losing faith in her own team. And let's talk about this for a second. Did she really think the judge was going to grant her access to 2.5 years of Baldoni's entire digital footprint? That was never going to happen. If her lawyers didn't see that coming, maybe she should hire new ones. Preferably from the CIA too, because clearly she thinks that's the best strategy now. At this point, it's painfully obvious. Lively's case has massive holes, and she's scrambling to patch them up. But as each ruling comes down, it's only making things clearer. Baldoni isn't just fighting back. He's winning. This wasn't about a tailored win or some strategic move. This was a blatant attempt to dig deep into every conversation, every connection, and every possible, untraceable detail. And now, with the trial officially set for March 2026, this legal battle is only heating up. If the past few months are any indication, things are about to get a whole lot messier. On one side, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are going all in, pulling every string they can. They're bringing in former CIA operatives, ramping up their PR machine, and rallying some of Hollywood's biggest names behind them. But the real question is, are they building a strong case, or are they just desperately trying to control the public narrative? Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni is staying focused on the long game. While Lively and Reynolds dominate headlines, Baldoni is racking up actual wins where it matters most, in court. His legal team is shutting down invasive subpoenas, countering smear tactics, and successfully positioning him as the real victim in this entire mess. And let's not forget, he's got a powerhouse PR team behind him, the same strategists who helped Johnny Depp win against Amber Heard. If this strategy holds, Baldoni might walk away from this battle not just vindicated, but stronger than ever. So where does this all lead? With millions of dollars, reputations, and entire careers on the line, neither side is backing down. And as Hollywood watches this drama unfold, one thing is crystal clear. This isn't just some lawsuit. It's an all-out war. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the battle is only just beginning. Whose side are you on? Drop your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned, because this fight is far from over.